Hi there everyone. So today I wanted to make a video to detail a couple of really common posing mistakes that I see. And so I have a couple of athletes that I work with who are kind enough to kind of let me use their posing transformations to make this video. So I'll try to keep it short and sweet, but these two mistakes in particular, we're going to talk about a couple in the front pose and then one in the back pose. And so obviously different poses look different on different people. But when you see something commonly and repetitively, there are certain trends that we can kind of follow to make sure that we are presenting our best when we're on stage. So the first posing mistake that I'm going to detail today is going to be in the front pose, and it's going to be pushing your upper body too far in front of your lower body. So of course, the entire time that we're on stage, we want to keep that good arch. But sometimes what girls will do is they'll almost like push their abdomen forward in space, and so their shoulders and their upper body will be like in front of their hips in space. And so when we're posing, you kind of want your shoulder, hip, and heel to all be in line. A nice tall posture. You're stretching more up than forward with your upper body. And so in this first photo, we are going to see a girl, and again, this is a really kind of good example of what that looks like. Pushing your upper body significantly in front of your lower body, it kind of shortens your overall physique, and it's not as good of a pose as what we could be doing. So overall, I mean, her hand placement is good, her heel position is going to change from this front pose as well, but the main thing I want you guys to focus on when you're looking at this is, again, she's kind of pushing her hips back behind her, pushing her upper body forward, kind of putting her at this crazy angle. So in the next photo, she's actually cleaned it up a little bit, so our heel position is better. We're more upright, still not getting the most out of this, still not as upright as she could possibly be. But you can see here, we're standing taller now, but she's getting a little bit ribby in that front pose. And so this is a whole separate thing. So this is like the error number 2 that I would want to fix in that front pose. So sometimes when we're, vacuuming or we're trying to compress our abs or make our waistline look smaller, it can end up looking ribby if you're not extremely careful with your breathing. So obviously in the front pose, we always want to push our chest up, our traps and shoulders back and down, to give us that tall posture. And what's going to happen is when you do that motion, your ribs and your upper body is going to kind of press forward and you're going to be pushing it outward. And then in order to get that like hard, crispy ab look and make those ribs kind of disappear, you're going to exhale all of your air. So breathe it out, let your ribs compress, so that way, again, we're not seeing any ribs in that front pose. We want to have a little bit of separation in our abs, lines in our core, but we don't want to see ribs. So in the next photo, she's kind of fixed everything. So look at how tall her posture is in comparison to that first photo. So now we're 100% upright, we're tall, this is a proud posture. In the first photo too, she's kind of pushing up with her shoulders. And so when your clavicles are at an angle and you're pushing up on your shoulders, it actually, those lines, it shortens your upper body. It shortens that width. And so by pressing up with your shoulders and trying to make your upper body look bigger, it actually makes it look smaller. So again, chest out, traps and shoulders back and down. You want kind of as much space in between your chin and your shoulder as you can. That's going to give you, again, that really tall, proud posture. The bikini division is kind of like a fitness model. So you want to think tall, proud, like trying to make yourself the tallest person on stage, really, in your class. And if you see here, when she does this, so she's kind of pushing her chest out and up, traps and shoulders are back and down. She's exhaled all of her air, so we're getting much more detail in that core. And obviously, she's more conditioned as these photos go on from February, March to May. You'd hope that they'd be more conditioned. But again, I want you guys to really focus on the posing here. Look at her heel position. Look at her back leg when she's pushing it towards the camera versus away from it. Look at how this tall, proud posture makes her physique look. Even with being less conditioned in February versus May, if she would be standing up in this tall posture, it would make her physique look a million times better. When you stretch out that midsection, it does make the waistline look smaller. It's like stretching taffy. It gets smaller in the middle. So again, I wanted to share with you guys this posing transformation because it is absolutely insane. Another area that we can look at here is that lat and that delt. So as she kind of pushes her chest out, that tall, proud posture, it allows her to kind of set her shoulder up on top of her lat. Now, of course, in bikini, we don't want to open up our lats by any means. We're not necessarily trying to show this off. But if you see how effortless this looks on her physique, it almost happens naturally. So we're getting so much more out of that delt. Her arm is nice. It's not completely externally rotated. But she's definitely not teapotting. We're not curving that arm around. It's just a nice, relaxed arm, good, relaxed hand position. And again, we went from, kind of pushing our upper body forward, losing that back leg, pushing up the shoulders a little bit, to a tall, proud, extremely competitive, like, wow the judges bikini front pose. So the next posing kind of like mistake, but it's not honestly a mistake. I don't like to use that word because some people look better in different back poses, but I want to show you guys a back pose transformation that is, again, absolutely mind-blowing. And there was really only one change made. It's kind of a slightly bent knee versus straight legs. But on this physique and on certain physiques, it makes a world of difference. So in the first photo here, we are going to look at how her legs are slightly bent. So obviously she has great glutes, great tie-ins, great hamstrings. You can still see all the development. Her lats are tapering down to her waist. This back pose, it's good, right? But when she straightens her legs, and kind of widens up that heel stance a little bit, never outside of the shoulders, but again, our heels are basically beneath our shoulders. It looks a million times better. So here we see, again, slightly bent knee, honestly not a bad back pose at all, but look at this transformation. So boom, now we've got legs straight, a little bit more tall in that back pose. Her glutes and her tie-ins look a million times better. Her overall posture looks better, and we're actually getting more, obviously too, like we're going to be a little bit more conditioned in the photo on the left than the right, but even like what we're seeing out of the delts, out of the hand position, the waistline, everything is looking so much better in this second back pose. So for some of you guys who are doing the slightly, I don't even like to say slight bend, it's more of like a soft knee, it looks better for some people. Some people can get more tie-ins out of this. But I've been seeing it more lately where it's that as good as it is, it could be better. So again, going from a slightly bent knee, and she's actually kind of pushing her knees out in this first photo, to kind of weight in the center of her foot, straightening those legs, almost essentially locking them out, and look at this world of difference. So if you guys are looking at these photos, whether it be the back pose or the front pose, and you're like, oh my gosh, it looks like I'm kind of doing that, maybe try the variation, especially in that front pose. I see it all the time, every single day. I feel like a broken record, like trying to get people to stand taller with their posture. But especially with the back pose, if you notice that, again, that like you've got like a little bit of bend to that knee, and again, it looks good, but maybe we're not getting the most out of it, definitely try this other back pose. And when you guys are looking at, top level bikini pros, I feel like on the left, you're going to see a little bit of that like straighter leg. And again, this back pose here on the left. Now, finally, I know that it is easier said than done to be like, oh, just, straighten your legs, lock them out in the back pose, and it's going to look better. It is much easier said than done. But this athlete has actually taken a couple of videos of what is happening when she's making this transformation. So again, in the first one where it's maybe not as good, you can see a little bit of a narrower heel stance. Her feet are a little closer together. We're looking at it from the side, so pushing pretty hard in the glutes, but you can definitely see that bend in the knee, right? Looking, again, you can't really tell from the back, but from the side you can see it's a little bit squatty. So again, this is the first pose that's maybe not getting the most out of those glutes. And then we're going to take a look at the second video in comparison. So straight legs, again, so much better posture, so much better, balance from top to bottom. It's such a small change, but it makes such a big difference. And here, especially from the side, you can see, again, those legs are essentially straight in that back pose. So another thing that was kind of noted here was, again, she said that with that first back pose, she was kind of rolling her knees to the outside, and the one with the slightly bent knees, and that was actually not helping her. It was kind of taking the emphasis off of her glutes. So sometimes, especially when you guys are lifting, you might be pushing your knees out hard when you're doing any wide stance, anything to get more glute activation. But for her in the back pose, you're not necessarily trying to mimic that. Some people get a lot out of that. Some people need to have their weight more in like the ball of their foot. towards the back of their foot, and again, pretty evenly balanced. We're not necessarily driving out with those knees as hard. So I hope this video was helpful to you guys. Again, look at these photos, look at these posing transformations. If you're noticing anything from these transformations and you're like, oh my gosh, I'm doing that in my front pose, don't worry about it. Posing is hard, it takes time, it's definitely unnatural. So just keep working on it. Again, I'm hoping that you seeing what the first pose looked like to what it looks like when it is amazing will help you guys see how big of a difference that these small changes make and help you kind of apply some of these tips to your own posing. So I hope you guys have a great rest of your contest season, and I will talk to you soon.